F1 24 Driver Career Mode, Season 1, Round Number 4, the Japanese Grand Prix. Yes, it is time for the Japanese Grand Prix. And yeah, before we get into this one, still having some issues with the F1 difficulty calculator. It will still be linked in the description below. I'm honestly not sure if it's working or not, because it seems very all over the place with, you know, we'll get into it in this video. I'll explain it a bit more, but yeah, it seems a little bit all over the place with difficulty at the moment with this game. It's quite difficult to actually figure out where I need to put the difficulty. But anyway, looking at R&D, you can see that we've pretty much stuck there with Mercedes. Ferrari jumped ahead a little bit, perhaps. McLaren definitely taken a jump towards Red Bull, so interesting to see how close they're getting to that top team. And yeah, so Japan, I do quite like Suzuka, quite like the track. I enjoy driving it. The last couple of games I've been better at this S's section. I used to be not very good at this section at all. I seem to now, even with the handling model in this game, seem to be alright with this section. So that's good, because I remember like F1 22 and before, used to just have so many issues with, you know, those S's sections in really any of the on any of the tracks, you know, Silverstone, Japan, Circuit of the Americas, always struggled with those sections, whereas I don't seem to struggle as much now. Q1, as you can see, my fastest time at 29.8. I am 0.8 quicker than Hamilton. Sorry, not Hamilton, Alonso, my teammate. Both Saubers, both Hasses, and Logan Sargent out in Q1. Not a massive surprise, although you can see now with the difficulty update, well, not the difficulty update, the rebalancing of the AI teams, that Stake, Sauber, F1 are rather slow now, where they should be, to be honest. But yeah, that first lap there, I was giving it my all. I've kept the difficulty at the same level that I have had it pretty much, well, exactly the same as I had it in Australia, so 90, which is the highest I'd had it up until this point. I think I started Bahrain, I had it at about 85, and it seemed about right. We got lucky with getting a podium, but generally everybody was close. It seemed about right. Then in Saudi, I finished, I think, 4th, had it at about 85. That seemed about right as well. Went to 90 for Australia. Of course, we won the race, but ended up having quite a yeah, it was still a very close race though between everybody. And then yeah, decided to keep it at 90 here, because once again the difficulty calculator, when I did it, was telling me to put the difficulty to 97, and that didn't seem right to me, so I put it at 90, and we just did a 29.8 again in Q2, so I think that's about my limit. Maybe could go a little bit quicker. Once again though, that time we were about 0.2 quicker than Alonso, so I thought we're still quite a bit quicker. And I actually did another, I did Q3 after that Q2 run, and ended up being not on pole. I ended up being P2 with once again another 29.8 second lap, I think it was, but we were P2 behind Verstappen. Alonso, I think, ended up with a 30.0 again, and he was in like P5 or 6, and I just thought, this difficulty doesn't seem right. You know, the fact that we were only like a 10th behind a Red Bull and ahead of everybody else, I thought this isn't right. But you can't change the difficulty partway through kind of qualifying. So this Q3 lap may look like I'm not going massively all out. That's because I wasn't. I was going fairly easy on this lap. I'd done more laps than I usually would have, because I'd already done I think I'd already done Q3 twice before this, and both times, you know, just to make sure it wasn't a one-off, both times went full beans with it, 29.8 second laps, and ended up like on the front row every time. So this time I decided to rein it back a little bit. I didn't go as quick, so I'm actually going to go the slowest in Q3 out of all of my laps. It's a 30.2 in the end. But then magically, when I did that, Alonso goes and does a 29.5. So once again, this is where the difficulty is just seemingly random. 2 times in a row he did a, well, 3 times if you count Q2, he did a 30.0. Then on the same difficulty this time, he does a 29.5. So I don't know what's going on there. Difficulty's all over the place, but we're in P7, very, very close between everyone else. Let's get going.
Welcome along to the legendary Suzuka. This classic racetrack boasts a long history dating right back to 1962 when it was first opened. Will more history be written here today at the Japanese Grand Prix? A lap of this historic racetrack covers 3.6 miles. It's the only time during the season that we race on a figure-of-8 circuit. And the drivers can expect some intense G-forces through the 18 corners on offer here as they experience some of the highest average apex speeds on the Formula One calendar. Keep an eye out for overtakes into the final chicane. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. An immense lap from Fernando Alonso yesterday puts him on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Norris, Hamilton, Leclerc, Shaw, Oscar Piastri, Russell, Perez, Tsunoda, Albon, Gasly, Zhou, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Sargent, Magnussen, Ocon, and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track where preparations are underway. And alongside me today, a man who I'm always pleased to see join me in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson. I don't want to, but we should look at their recent performances, and I think poor is a universal word to describe them. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
All right, here we go for the Japanese Grand Prix in Season 1 of Driver Career Mode in F1 24. It is lights out and away we go. It's actually a decent start for us here. One of the better starts we've had so far this season. It's 3 wide pretty much up ahead. We're actually going to have a look at the inside of Leclerc as we head into Turn 1, but we make contact with him. The rear end gets absolutely spun around there, but thankfully after we collect it up after going over the curb a bit there, we managed to keep the position from Piastri behind, stay in 7th place. So we have stayed in the same position that we started in. But yeah, that was probably the best start so far. Australia last time out, we did not have a good start. We dropped about 3 positions off the start. Here we have kept position and we're actually looking at getting a position on Leclerc at the start. Now, the whole thing with difficulty, I did actually change the difficulty just as a bit of a test for this race. I put it up to 95. So the calculator, like I said, told me to put it at 97. I thought that's too high. I was then doing qualifying and was going, too quick, and I thought maybe I do need to put it up. And then Alonso went like 3 tenths faster than I could at all in any point. So even if I was pushing it, so I was a bit confused. So I put it to 95 just to see what that would be like, and I think it was about right, maybe a little bit too high. But to be fair, the cars around us, they are a little bit quicker than us. The Ferraris, the McLarens, even the Mercedes are slightly quicker than us, and of course the Red Bulls. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing with difficulty. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the next race, which I think is China. I may just, see what the difficulty calculator gives me, maybe go down 1 or 2 points from that, see if that works. It's going to be a lot of trial and error for this, that's for sure. The lead of the race, though, has just changed going on to lap number 3 as Carlos Sainz takes the lead. He is the lead Ferrari here today and has had a good start and is now leading this race. Meanwhile, we're struggling a little bit here. We're struggling a little bit. Maybe it's the difficulty being a bit high. Maybe it's just the fact that this is Oscar Piastri in a McLaren, and the McLaren's pretty damn good now. A fair way ahead of us on paper, so he is quick. Legitimately, and we managed to defend from him. That has unfortunately put us now outside of DRS from Leclerc, but we do eventually catch back up again. But this lap around, we didn't quite get in that 1 second margin before the detection zone, and Piastri gets past. We've lost a position. We're down to P8 now on lap 5. But another thing I'm really struggling with this race, which seems to be a bit all over the place with whether I'm good at good with it or not good with it is ERS. My ERS management in this race not particularly great. So that's something to keep in mind as Fernando Alonso goes to retake the lead once again round the outside of Sainz, just about gets a move done before the corner. But then with DRS, Sainz is going to come straight back at him again and back into the lead. So it is a battle between the two Spaniards at the front here. Alonso fighting for the win for the second race in a row. Let's remember he was way up there in the lead in Australia until he had, I think, a bad pit stop and then fell back for other reasons. I can't even remember now, to be honest. Speaking of other reasons though, Alonso then locks up into the chicane, into the final chicane. That drops him way behind Sainz. He still has DRS, but he's lost all momentum coming out of that corner. That now means that Lewis Hamilton, who's sitting up in P3 at the moment in the Mercedes, is going to have a look at a move, but doesn't quite, not quite able to get it done. But now with Alonso out of DRS, and he's going to be out of DRS for the next zone as well, it means that Hamilton may have an opportunity here to go for P2 in this race. Mercedes haven't had a podium so far. It's not going to matter anyway because Alonso locks up again into the chicane, drops back all the way to P5 this time. What is going on for Alonso? He's supposed to be, he's the most experienced driver on the grid. In real life, he is very unlikely, you know, he doesn't make mistakes that often, but here he's making mistakes all the time in our season. When he's our teammate, he's making many mistakes. He's now fighting with Leclerc to hold on to P5. He's still going to go side by side into the S section here, but Leclerc's got the better line and he gets ahead. So Alonso's dropped from 2nd to 6th in the matter of that, well, from the chicane down to turn 1. As now Lando Norris shows he's got a bit of speed behind Hamilton, who does not have DRS. Sainz has pulled away from the DRS of the cars behind. Now these guys will battle each other. Norris got up to P2. Hamilton did get it back though, and now Alonso is starting to try and, you know, make up for the mess he made earlier. Gets back ahead of Leclerc at that point. Hamilton then gets back ahead of Norris again. That might have been what we saw on the timing tower before. You know, it had already happened when we saw the Alonso move, but he is now ahead as well. We are now in this train. We can see Alonso just ahead of us in P6 there, and look, there's already quite a big gap. You can see Sainz, Hamilton, Norris and Verstappen are kind of now in a group together, so they've managed to catch up to Sainz, and then it's a bit of a ways back to then Leclerc, Alonso, Piastri, myself, Russell, Perez, and I think it's Ocon and Albon, the cars at the back of this train just about hanging on. So once again, as Leclerc locks up, goes straight on, so that's going to let Alonso back up into P4. We're going to then inherit P6, so that's good for us, but very unfortunate for Leclerc there, just locking up. Lots of drivers locking up here. We saw it actually quite a lot, and there's another one. It's the leader, Carlos Sainz, locking up into the chicane. What is it with this game? Everybody seems to lock up all the time as he's stuck there on the outside of the chicane, and we managed to get past him as we come into the pits, up to P5 now. Into the pits we come. I think Alonso's going to take the lead of the race because of the pits and everything going on here. But we're going to come in for our change onto a hard set of tyres. It is looking slow. It's slow on the front right. It's a slow pit stop for us. A 3.9 second pit stop. Not terrible, but definitely not a good pit stop. And that could harm us here. That could definitely hurt our performance. It hasn't. We've stayed ahead of the cars that we came into the pits with, but that may change as drivers come into the pits ahead of us, unless anything crazy happens like a safety car or anything. Well, Alonso's going to come in next lap around, so if he has a good pit stop here, he should be able to stay ahead of us for sure. But once again, it's slow. It's really slow on the rear right for him, even slower than our pit stop. That's probably going to harm him. He's now behind Perez, Piastri. They were really the only two that he was ahead of before, and here we go as we see the cars to the right of us. We're actually going to get ahead of Sainz. I mean, we were already ahead of Sainz, I guess, but it hasn't really hurt us actually. We come out once everybody's pitted, or there's still some RBs up ahead. We're currently actually now P4, so despite having a bad pit stop, it's actually not really been an issue for us as Sainz goes past into turn 1. Couldn't quite hold him up, didn't have enough ERS there. He had DRS, not a lot I could do there. Sainz is looking very quick at the moment, so we're just going to have to let him go at the front, and Lando Norris is getting hampered here. Not hampered, getting, what's the word? Getting, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. He's getting overtaken, let's just say that, by Max Verstappen, although I think Lando Norris is then going to pick up the DRS as they go down the next straight. I don't even know. Neither of them look like they have DRS, but Norris is pulling to the inside, but he won't be able to get past in the end. Hamilton has gotten himself up to P2, and Verstappen's got himself up to P2. I'm terrible today. Hamilton is leading this race, so we could have a classic Hamilton versus Verstappen showdown as we go for a move on Sergio Perez. So there we go, down the inside of him, getting that position, so that's good. I don't remember Perez getting past us. I don't know if I missed that that clip out, but there we go. He's now, though, going to get back past us again as we go down to 130R. So I thought I'll let him go past here, because then that'll give us the DRS as we head down to turn 1, and I think that's gonna be the way to do it here. One thing with this game, if you're the car ahead, the lead car in a train, it is pretty much impossible to survive an attack from anyone. If you're stuck in a train, it's pretty much impossible to overtake anyone or be overtaken. So the only battles happening are really at the front of trains, and that's what's about to happen here, because Hamilton has now been caught by Max Verstappen for the lead of this race. And as they go into 130R, the two old championship rivals of 2021 are going to go side by side again into the chicane. This is literally 2021 all over again, and Max Verstappen gets ahead and is now in the lead of this race. But as they come down here, Hamilton's going to have DRS, Norris is going to have DRS as well, Verstappen's a sitting duck, Hamilton gets back into the lead, Norris is going to charge through to take P2 as well, and all of a sudden Verstappen goes from P1 to P3. That's just showing you how terrible it is not having the DRS, and it's going to be a similar story for us here as well. As we've slightly gone to the grass a little bit there, going a bit too far to the left, trying to defend from Perez, but yeah, we cannot do anything with the AI having DRS. We just cannot fight, and I'm also at this point realizing that I'm getting a bit low on fuel. Lando Norris is now going to go back for a move on the lead after they swapped around a little bit more on the last lap. Literally starting the last lap, Lando Norris now leads the way, so this is basically it to lose. You know, it's his race to lose now. As heading onto the final lap for us, we have Piastri trying to go for a move around the outside. We just kind of squeeze him out wide a little bit there. Once again, onto the grass with us. We're being a little bit chaotic at this point, and I am really trying to save fuel, because yeah, I'm into the negative with fuel, and it's proving rather costly for me. And as you can see, we just have no speed coming down this straight here, because I'm just having to fuel manage so much out of corners and into corners. And Piastri does get himself up into P5. I don't think we're going to be able to catch him back again. But at the front, Lando Norris, he hasn't won a race in Formula 1 yet. Let's just keep that in mind, because Miami 2024 has not happened yet in this career mode. But as he heads into the chicane, he locks up. Lando Norris locks up into the chicane. He falls back to P3. Norris is not going to get his first win in Formula 1. Instead, it's going to be win number 3 of the season for Max Verstappen. Hamilton comes home second for his and Mercedes' first podium of the season. And Lando Norris will have to settle for third after that, after he really should have won that. If he didn't lock up into that final chicane, he almost certainly would have won the race. As we come into the final chicane, we go into low fuel mode. Alonso locks up again and is going to drop down to 10th. No, it's going to be 11th as Leclerc manages to get ahead of him. So Alonso's not even going to score any points. We're going to come home for, I believe, P6. So a decent result in the end. We move up one position from where we started. But yeah, the difficulty, I don't know if it was 100%. We didn't have enough fuel this race. We seemed to burn through more fuel than I was expecting. This one was a bit of a mess.
They've done it then, here at Suzuka. A brilliant win on the beloved figure-of-8 circuit.
Well, of course, there's more to celebrate, not just for the drive today, Crofty, but also they're here on home soil for the power unit manufacturer, and that will mean an awful lot to them going forward in this championship.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves.
There we have it. Max Verstappen wins the Japanese Grand Prix. He's won all but one race this season, which was Australia last time out that we won, but he's definitely been the one to beat. What it could have been for Lando Norris. He was leading up until the final couple of corners. If he didn't lock up, he would have won that race. So that's unfortunate that he doesn't get his first race win here in Japan. And Lewis Hamilton on the podium once again for the first time this season. First podium for Mercedes as well. He looked very strong and he could have very well won this race as well. Good pace in that Mercedes. We come home P6. Like I said, I mean, our fastest lap times are pretty decent. So to be honest, I think the difficulty was about correct. My big issue, especially towards the end, was that I didn't put enough fuel in the car. We used more fuel. I usually put about 0.5 to 0.7 of a lap's extra fuel in the cars for these races. And yeah, depending on the track and everything, different tracks use different amounts of fuel with the way that I drive, and unfortunately we didn't quite have enough fuel and I had to really save it on the last couple of laps. We're still second in the championship, still a fair way ahead of Leclerc in third as well. Alonso dropping back quite a bit after not scoring any points there today, and we're still second. Well, we're back to second, I don't even know, in the Constructors' Championship. It's all a bit of a mess here. Alpine, the only team not to score so far. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.